Players Court team, whose chairman is George Monk. Players Court team whose chairman is George Monk, to come and take their places, please. And I hand over to you.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is George Monk, and as the chair of this Clares Court Rotary Youth Speaks team, I am delighted to introduce to you both myself and my teammates. First of all, sitting to my left is the vote of thanks for this team, Ravi, or as he hoped I'd call him, Ravi. Now Ravi, being the sophisticated and well-educated young man that he is, was very keen to take on this role of vote of thanks. However, finding someone willing to become main speaker was a bit more difficult. But after a little bit of pleading, Alex Hudson finally decided to join the team, for which we are very grateful. Now, having a person like Alex on the team, there was only going to be one topic which we were ever going to be discussing, and that is technology. Surrounding him wherever he goes, Alex wouldn't dream of letting his gadgets out of his sights. Whether it be his iPod, his iPhone, or even nowadays his toothbrush, Alex simply can't help himself. And this is what is starting to get worrying, ladies and gentlemen, that millions of teenagers around the world cannot get by without their tech beside them. Teenagers are becoming so heavily reliant on the use of technology for simple day-to-day needs that they are unable to think for themselves anymore. As you'd imagine, Alex was in total disagreement at first, but after a quick status update and a couple of tweets about how ridiculous it was, he then came to realise the problem at hand. We came to realise that in fact people like him were becoming too reliant on technology, and that just maybe they needed to use their own know-how to get through the day, without relying on the latest gadget. Moreover, as we delve deeper into the matter, we realise how dangerous the world of technology is becoming, how dangerous a computer or even a phone could be in the wrong hands. And so after taking this all in, Alex had his topic decided, and therefore without further ado, ladies and gentlemen, I now present to you a person with a new perspective on tech. Ladies and gentlemen, I give to you Alex Hudson.
Thank you, George. 63 million people currently live in the United Kingdom. 16% of our population is made up of teenagers. George, Ravi, and I all fall into this age group. We've all been privileged enough to have been brought up in such a way that technology is accessible like that. But is this a good thing? As George mentioned earlier, just a matter of weeks ago, I was so dependent upon my tech, I could hardly live without it. However, George and Ravi shed some light onto the topic, and I've finally come to my senses. So, ladies and gentlemen, in my presentation to you tonight, I'll be explaining as to why I believe teenagers today are too reliant on technology. When researching the topic, I decided that an ideal way for me to compare two worlds, one with technology and one without, would be by talking to my parents. They described to me how growing up was not a constant wait for new technology to emerge, and how playing and communicating with friends would occur face-to-face, outside. If we compare this to now, surely this seems like a more healthy and less antisocial way of spending our time. According to the website BBC, 63% of teenage communication today takes place via text messaging for over 20 hours a week. It's ridiculous. How can individuals expect to enhance their vocabulary and communication skills by pressing buttons on a small handheld device? It doesn't make sense. As well as the fact that it destroys our ability to converse with our peers, it can also have serious implications with our health. With our heads constantly tilted forwards and down, this creates poor posture, which puts extra emphasis on bones, muscles, and joints, thus leading to a symptom the experts call text neck. Texting is just the beginning. Now, onto social networks. Facebook, Twitter, and MySpace. All respectively good products that aid us in communication enormously. But if we delve a little deeper, let's see what we find. We could look at it as 88% of 13 to 16-year-olds can communicate and express feelings easily. It's fantastic that we have the ability to do this. However, we could look at it as 88% of 13 to 16-year-olds are potential victims of bullying. For example, 29% of teens have posted hurtful information, uploaded embarrassing photos, or spread rumours about someone via a social network. Now, a simple status update or picture upload may initially just be a joke, but let's just think of the serious implications this could have on us in the future. Soon, I'll be looking to get a job, and an embarrassing or unsuitable photo could be the difference between me getting or losing the job placement. In extreme cases, teenagers can be left isolated, not knowing where to turn. A prime example of this is Amanda Todd. On the 10th of October 2012, Amanda Todd, of similar age to George, Ravi and I, committed suicide due to constant abuse and bullying over social networks. Think how tragedies like these could be reduced if teenagers had less exposure to technology. Buy this, watch that, go compare. The advertisements online are endless. They benefit the retailer, but what do they do for us teens? I believe today teenagers are over-reliant on technology. A disadvantage of this is that we become overexposed to advertisements. The overexposure to advertisements via technology means that we spend money on things that we don't necessarily need or want, thus meaning we don't have money to spend on more beneficial products. To conclude, although I believe technology is vital in modern life, I think it's all about moderation. Teenagers must not only be able to see the benefits of tech, but the benefits of not using tech as well. We now have a generation growing up which lack the ability to do basic skills, such as maths. They feel they can just use a calculator. And spelling, as they feel they can just use spell check. Now, ladies and gentlemen, you may think I'm over-exaggerating, but the former Department of Education and Skills in 2001 launched the strategy of the Skills for Life campaign with the aim of helping 2.25 million adults by 2010. Just 2 years later, it established that 75% of adults had numeracy skills below a higher level pass at GCSE. To quote a man who lived in a time where technology was not particularly advanced, Albert Einstein felt it was appallingly evident that our technology has exceeded our humanity. Imagine what he'd think living in our time, in our age, and with our technological dependence. Thank you.
Thank you, Alex. I now invite Mr. Blacker to propose this question.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. You've given an excellent explanation of how this avalanche is overtaking, particularly the younger and not so young generation now. Can you think of any means by which this avalanche could be limited? Turned back even?
Well, I think, as I mentioned in my speech earlier, I think it's all about moderation. I think possibly if we were to enforce something like a time limit on where, for example, a PlayStation, where if someone's playing on it for over a certain amount of time, then it just shuts down. It just reduces our exposure, and then that reduces the disadvantages, what I've mentioned in my speech. So, I hope that answered your question. Thank you.
Thank you again, Alex. Ladies and gentlemen, I will now hand you over to our vote of thanks within the Parliament.
Thank you, George. Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the Clare Scott orators, I would like to thank Alex for giving his speech on the over-reliance of teenagers on technology. It's fascinating, isn't it, how thousands and millions of young adults are captivated every minute of every single working day by a screen which, on most occasions, is no bigger than mine or your palms. Now, as aforementioned by Alex, 63% of children aged 13 to 17 spend more than 20 hours a week utilising their mobile phones, games consoles, and other various means of technology. 20 hours a week. Imagine what your child could be doing with that time. Alex also referred to the point about teenagers becoming less sociable due to spending all their time on the computer and simply none with the family. Is this really what we want for our children? To replace their aunties and uncles with the TV and games consoles? I believe I speak for the majority of us when I say we simply don't want this. It's shocking also to think that children as young as 15 years old are committing suicide due to bullying over social networking sites and through other technological mediums. Children throwing their lives away because of a small minority of, well, idiots. Imagine if that was one of your children, concealing their pain and suffering only for it to culminate into them taking their own lives. So that's another point to think about there. Now to conclude, technology in our age has become so advanced that we use it for nearly everything in our daily lives. I don't even hesitate to think how detrimental, in many cases, that tech can be towards both ourselves and our children. As we dip our hands into the fruit bowl of technology, we need to see not only how ripe it is, but also how rotten it can be. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for listening, and we have a round of applause round.
Thank you all for coming to listen to us tonight, and that concludes our presentation. Thank you.